Rose is directed by Nicholas Stoller and stars Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane. When two detached men meet one another, they find that they are drawn to each other in a way that neither of them has ever felt before. Just from seeing the trailers for this movie, I knew I was in. Even though I'm not very familiar with Billy Eichner as a comedian, just from watching the trailer and just from actually having a blast watching it, I knew that the whole movie was going to be a hugely fun time. And not to be predictable or anything, but it really was. This was truly one of the funniest new scripted comedies I've seen in a while. The writing for this movie is almost ingeniously clever. Not only does it love to just poke fun at the usual rom-com formula over and over and over again, but it just loves to have fun with how society interprets the LGBTQ plus community. Everything from the pandering that studio executives do to the Hallmark movies that are obviously meant for an LGBTQ plus crowd, even though they don't want to say it, it's actually really clever. The movie knows how to create this over-the-top world that looks just like ours, but without any of the filters that our world has. And not only is the world that this movie is surrounded in so ingeniously hilarious, but the characters and the dialogue are just as well written. Every single character has a distinct over-the-top personality that on some level we can all relate to someone that we might know in our everyday life, especially Billy Eichner's character in this movie, who loves to actually just inform everyone that he sees, even if they're just a random person on the street, how much society has pretty much just closeted LGBTQ plus people throughout all of human history. And even though the way that he says this dialogue does sound at first very hateful and condescending, it's just because he's passionate about what he's talking about, and you do both feel and understand that passion that comes behind every single one of those words. There are legitimately times in this movie where I did almost tear up. Times where Billy Eichner's character was speaking so clearly and so plainly that it was very obvious that these were true emotions and true thoughts and true feelings that Billy Eichner has expressed and felt in his past. Both the performance and the way that it's written combine together so well that when you're watching those moments, it doesn't feel like a performance, it just feels like someone who has had these emotions for years now, decades probably, and just wants everyone to know that he has felt these emotions and that they are important to get out there in the world. I also really liked his chemistry with Luke McFarlane's character. Their relationship with each other is extremely very realistic and extremely modern, more modern than most rom-coms nowadays I think are even willing to go. But because this movie is willing to go the extra mile in realism when it comes to relationship, it does feel very genuine, and they have such fantastic chemistry that from the first 5 minutes when they first meet each other, you immediately love them together and you want to see them together. From both an emotional standpoint and especially comedic standpoint, this movie is really well done. So what are my issues? Sometimes the pacing of the movie can feel very rushed, especially in the first half, where scenes in the movie will pretty much just end all of a sudden without really any conclusion to the scene itself. It almost seemed like there was more to those scenes, but in the editing room, because the runtime was getting so long, they needed to cut some things out. So they just decided to cut a whole bunch of how the first couple scenes ended. And as much as this movie loves to poke fun of so many movie cliches, and especially rom-com cliches, there are a lot of times in the movie where it does turn into those cliches that it's making fun of. You have your adorable montages in the middle of the movie. You have your third act breakup. Every single beat that this movie loves to poke fun at rom-coms for the most part, they eventually do. And I wouldn't mind as much if the movie wasn't so self-aware about the film industry itself that it seemed like it was smart enough to not do all of these cliches. But because it eventually does all of these cliches, it feels more like a drawback instead of it just fitting into the genre that it's making fun of so much. But honestly, that's it. Those problems are the only flaws that I have with the movie. I really enjoyed Bros. Not only does the writing manage a near perfect balance between hilariously self-aware and genuinely heartbreaking, but the film has two great lead performances with solid chemistry to back it up. Yes, some of the pacing can feel rushed, and the movie does eventually fall victim to a lot of the cliches that it makes fun of, but the rest of the film is so well done, those flaws never hindered the movie for me. There's not much else I can really say. I walked into this movie with high expectations, wanting to have a lot of good laughs, and my expectations were met, and I had a lot of good laughs. I'm going to give Bros an A-. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite self-aware comedy? I think objectively the best has to be Blazing Saddles. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, watch that movie. It can never be made today. That is why it's awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best, and don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.